No, I didn't forget to dust. This is purely decorative. I tried so hard to make this look good. Hello and welcome back to the attic with me, Lou. It is, of course, spooky season, and I have mostly been watching horror movies. I've been trying to consume many that I've never seen before, you know, to keep things fresh, to further my education, and to get me into the Halloween spirit. However, as an enthusiast of the genre, I feel like at this point I'm panning for gold in a river that I've been sifting through quite relentlessly over the years, and I found the majority of the nuggets, so it's mostly just rocks and pebbles left. Not that that's a massive problem. Some of my favorite movies are arguably garbage. I did recently just watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 78 version, and Hatchet for the Honeymoon by Mario Bava. Both great films. Potential new favorites, certainly nuggets. But as much as I do like to challenge myself to watch new and different things, as you've probably deduced, I am a creature of habit. And there's just some movies you can't beat. What is Halloween without a little nostalgia, right? And who says something has to be a certificate 18 to pack a punch? I love a child-friendly fright as much as the next kid. So today, I'm going to be talking about one of my Halloween favorites. Yet another classic from 1995 that is adorable yet deep, spooky yet comforting, and at times, strangely devastating. Yeah, that's right. I'm a grown-ass woman, and I fucking love this movie. I love Christina Ricci. I love Bill Pullman. I love big spooky houses. I just love it all. It's set around Halloween, so there's a beautiful autumnal palette and a costume party, fallen leaves, kids riding around on bikes. It's a seasonal essential, in my opinion. And if you're like, but Lou, I'm not a child, what's in it for me? Well, my response would be, Steven Spielberg was an executive producer on it, so you're probably gonna rediscover your inner child. Plus, it's got references to Apocalypse Now, The Exorcist, Tales from the Crypt, you name it. This one's for all ages, my friend. Or at least that's what I keep telling myself. If you're a millennial like me, chances are you're well versed in this film. But if you missed it, or have been actively avoiding it, allow me to remedy that. Based on the classic cartoon cutie pie of the same name, Casper follows a young ghost who desperately wants to make friends, but has an unfortunate habit of scaring people away.
Oh, every time.
An evil heiress named Carrigan Crittenden has inherited Casper's home from her recently deceased father and wants to evict the wee ghost in order to obtain the treasure that is supposedly hidden somewhere within the mansion. Thanks to Casper's spooky uncles, Carrigan and her lawyer sidekick Dibs continuously struggle to gain entry into the house.
Who are you gonna call? Someone else.
But lonely and determined little Casper has a stroke of genius when he sees paranormal therapist Dr. James Harvey on the TV. Or rather, when he sees Dr. Harvey's daughter.
How do you feel about what your father does for a living?
Could you please not ask any questions?
Do you believe in ghosts? Have you ever seen one? Does your father ever hurt you in any way?
It's my father.
Why she's being interviewed and discussed this way is quite frankly beyond me. But Casper has a fuzzy tingle and decides that he needs Kat in his life. So he possesses Carrigan's TV, she sees Dr. Harvey, and hires him with the intention that he will get rid of the ghosts once and for all.
Now, Dr. Harvey, I will be watching you very closely. These are for you.
Have a lovely night.
Upon moving into Whipstaff Manor, Kat and her father are welcomed by Casper, but tormented by his uncles. They want the humans out, Carrigan wants the ghosts out, and Kat just wants some friggin' stability.
For once, I would just like to be in one place long enough to make a friend.
Honey, you will.
She is, after all, just a teenage girl living in this morbid world, and who better to play her than Wednesday Addams herself, Christina Ricci, whose name is synonymous with 90s childhood, and I can't imagine anyone else in this role. She's sassy and sarcastic,
You gonna be all right alone?
Hey, if I'm not back in 10 days, send a search party.
She's brave and not afraid to stand up for herself.
You guys are disgusting, obnoxious creeps.
Thank you.
And she's incredibly grounded when you consider what a rough time of it she's had. Her mum passed away, so she's going through those awkward years without any female role models. Her dad has a job that no one takes seriously, and he doesn't really understand her. She's been forced to move from town to town, so she doesn't have any friends. And now, not only does she have to deal with the nasty ghost uncles living with her, but all the kids at her new school are complete dicks. They are unnecessarily rude, especially Amber, who might actually be the devil incarnate. But yeah, all in all, Kat handles everything with so much maturity. Perhaps even more so than her dad.
Dad, put me down! This is insane. What are you doing? I can walk, you know.
And maybe that's because she makes the best of a bad situation by finding a friend in Casper, who is just a little darling and wants everyone to be happy all the time, especially Kat. It does verge on being creepy at times, because he's so kind to Kat, he would do anything for her, but he's also clearly infatuated with her, and a tad possessive.
Can I keep you?
I do feel really sorry for the guy though, because he just wants to love and be loved in return. That's Moulin Rouge, different film, but you get the point. Besides, he's just a child, and he's been living as a friendless doormat for decades. It's heartbreaking. And don't even get me started on his backstory, because I cannot even handle that scene where Kat restores his playroom and all of his memories start flooding back, and we find out that he died from pneumonia from playing outside in the cold when he was only 12 years old. And I know he's not real. But man, if that little CGI ghost can't emote.
Got late. Got dark. Got cold. And I got sick. My dad got sad.
There are parts of this movie that make me very emotional, and I blame James Horner for that, because when that bittersweet score kicks in, it's like a trigger going off and I'm gone. It's honestly a beautiful soundtrack, and it tugs right at my heartstrings. That being said, the tone of this movie is so all over the shop that in 1 minute you're supposed to be crying about death, and then the next you're supposed to be laughing about it. And I'm going to elaborate on that by referring to the second half of the movie, so if you don't want any spoilers, you best be on your way. So it becomes apparent that although a paranormal therapist by trade, Dr. Harvey has never actually had any contact with ghosts before. A huge clue to this being his reaction to Casper and the uncles when they first meet.
There. See?
Pleasure to meet you, sir.
We also start to realise that the only reason he began pursuing this career in the first place was on the slim chance that he might be able to contact his wife, who, as previously mentioned, passed away, and he's still obviously struggling to come to terms with that. This element of the plot, regardless of the shenanigans that happen around it, is emotionally heavy. Bill Pullman plays it with complete sincerity, but for the majority of the film, death is addressed in a very casual manner because a huge portion of the characters are cartoon ghosts that like to make jokes and spew out pop culture references. The uncles are so savage that they use Dr. Harvey's grief as entertainment and have Fatso drag up and pretend to be his dead wife. Plus, as soon as the Lazarus is introduced, which is the machine that Casper's father invented to try and bring his son back to life, death kind of loses some of its poignancy because we know that there's a chance that people can potentially come back from it. So inevitably, some of the characters die very suddenly and rather comically to prove just this.
Are you a ghost yet? All right, boys. The night is young. We are going to clean out every bar this town has got. We're going to booze it until we lose it. Come on, come on.
It is a bit chaotic, I'm fine with it because I believe that comedy and tragedy are two sides of the same coin. And I also embrace that this is just a live action cartoon and that realism isn't always essential. I think that's why I love the character of Carrigan so much, because she's basically just a one-dimensional cartoon villain, so I know exactly where I stand with her.
What do we do now?
What do I usually do when something stands in my way?
Like, I know I'm not going to be cringing at any gushy moments involving her because she's completely detached from all emotion. Death does not faze her in the slightest. She's just there for the money, and she will do whatever it takes to get it. Plain and simple.
Dibs, you're taking this way too personally.
Plus, Cathy Moriarty. What a beautiful woman. What a talented woman. Raging Bull? She fucking kills, man. She's one of those people that I get really excited about when they pop up in something. And for me, she steals the show in this. She executes the villain role perfectly. And her chemistry with Eric Idle is just lovely. They're a lot of fun together. And I really enjoy that dynamic.
Every time Eric got like hurt or he fell
would
or
laugh like that.
shaving cream went down his
I'd
throat.
entertain her by slipping and falling, being beaten
I
on the
always
head.
felt really bad,
Yeah.
but I just found it hysterical.
I obviously also need to talk about Mr. President Bill Pullman because he displays nothing if not range in this movie. I really appreciate that while we have the main plot involving Kat trying to fit in at school, developing a crush on someone, befriending Casper and helping him learn about his past, etc., etc. Meanwhile, in the house, Pullman is slowly deteriorating and experiencing what is essentially a mental breakdown because the uncles are fucking with him so relentlessly.
Oh, no. I think they're actually getting to be quite focused now.
They torment him so much that he becomes all disheveled and distant, a former shell of the man that he once was. And then they start to feel sorry for him, get him pissed, do a bit of karaoke, and decide maybe he's alright after all, and maybe they can all be friends.
I'm gonna tell that lady. You aren't going anywhere. It's your house. You're haunting it. Possession is 9/10 of the law. No. Yes. No. Yes.
And then he falls down an open manhole, dies, makes a brief appearance as a cartoon ghost, and then comes back to life. It's quite the whirlwind, and credit to Pullman because he commits hard to this role. We see a lot of physical comedy from him, and it's a predominantly humorous performance, but he somehow manages to interject everything with a tinge of sadness. And then 5 minutes from the end, we get this incredibly sincere moment that he sells the shit out of. And then next thing you know, the uncles are dressed as Little Richard and...
Boys?
Like I said, the tone of this movie, unpredictable, but it looks great. I love the production design of this movie, specifically the Whipstaff Manor set, because it has this Art Nouveau, Gaudi-like fluidity to it, with its curved ceilings, stained glass windows, and warped staircases. It brings a contemporary feel to the classic haunted house. And it was built on a soundstage that I bet would have been amazing to visit. I believe it was also used in the Backstreet Boys' Everybody music video. And I also love that because they play classic monsters in it. And Josie Maran is in it, and she was one of Dracula's brides in Van Helsing, Casper Cinematic Universe. But yeah, I love that set. And as big a fan as I am of the practical stuff, shout out to the Up and Atom machine, I do think that the CGI has aged particularly well in this film. Maybe that's coming from a nostalgic place, I don't know. But I do buy that the ghosts are there. I think that they were designed really well, like very cartoonish, but somehow that makes them more tangible. For me, anyway. I do have some questions regarding their design and the lore behind it. One, were the ghosts called Stretch, Fatso, and Stinky when they were still alive? And what type of people would they have been? to why are Casper and his uncles floating around naked when Dr. Harvey and Carrigan keep their clothes on when they become ghosts? Do they start to look more like translucent marshmallows as time goes on? And 3, is Kat's mum actually an angel? Because she looks like a human and she can grant wishes. Which brings me onto a scene that I can't believe we haven't even mentioned yet, where Casper has his Pinocchio moment and becomes a real boy in the form of Devon Sawa, walking down the stairs like Cinderella with only a few minutes on the clock, and then him and Kat dance together and share a kiss. It's so wrong that it's right. I'm gonna be cringing so much when I have to edit this footage, but oh well. Plus, Casper deserves a win. He does everything for everyone else. It's about bloody time. Sorry, my butt has gone to sleep, but I recently watched the making of documentary, which I highly recommend. Not just because it's incredibly interesting, but because the cast and crew spend the first 5 minutes talking about Casper like he's a real person.
You know, I'd heard a couple of stories, tantrums, you know, excessive demanding. But I figured we could probably work it out, you know, and as I say, with the exception of a couple times when it was a little tough to get him out of the trailer, he was fine. It's
a very nice touch. It seems like it would have been a very magical film to work on, and it's got so much heart behind it. How could you not love it? I've made it out to sound super depressing, but it is a hoot and a half. I think a perfect Halloween option if you're after something on the milder side. If you're after something a little more hardcore, that's a conversation for another time. But whatever you watch this Halloween, may it go well for you. And on that note, I'm gonna go find myself a bumbling lawyer and see if we can't find some hidden treasure. But until the next time, be safe, be spooky, don't be a prick like Amber, and if you're gonna summon any ghosts, make sure they're friendly ones.
Well, no, come on. If you're here, just tap the fucking table.
Thank you for your time.